Christopher Nolan might be one of the last few directors to have the old school ways of filmmaking. Most films nowadays are filmed with such simplicity it makes Justin Trudeau's new policies look more sophisticated and well thought out. It's like these modern agenda-filled film schools are pumping out new filmmakers out of a conveyor belt that is coded by AI, without actually teaching them the deep-rooted details and fundamental structure of what it takes to make a good movie. Such as directing, and with directing you need to know all aspects of the filmmaking process. Do you think any of these new directors know the basic structure of a scene that needs to be at least some kind of goal so it doesn't become a filler? Most movies today are just a culmination of moving pictures with different angles that have approximate 2-hour runtime with some dialogue. Movies today aren't made with a purpose, they're just there to be there, or unless the purpose is to push
the message.
Watching this movie and seeing these amazing performances telling a story about a man living in a world run by other men, showing how awesome men can be when they're not treated like absolute shit, and how things can get done and invented when the world is a patriarchy until it's taken away by a woman. Wait, I think I saw the wrong movie again! Oh my god, I'll be back in 3 hours. 3 hours? Oh my god, let me just empty the tank first. Okay, so I just saw Oppenheimer, and damn, it's been a while since I've seen a movie like this. Only Christopher Nolan can make a movie about a person and make it feel epic. I mean, it is about the guy who made the nuke, but you know what I mean. If Nolan directed a Mike Tyson movie, you know that'd be a cinematic masterpiece. Don't get me wrong, this movie does have its faults. A lot of times, Nolan gets a little too ambitious, especially the way he structures his movies, but how he handled telling the story of Oppenheimer, death, the destroyer of worlds. Probably the best version we're ever going to get. And this movie is not going to be all about camera angles, even though Nolan's movies has some of the best cinematography, and that's credit to his cinematographer, Hoyt van Hoytema, who has done films like Tenet, Interstellar, Dunkirk. You can see why Christopher Nolan likes this guy. He's done Nope, Ad Astra, Spectre, which I'll get into more in a bit. But a movie that's a strict drama thriller is going to be all about the performances. Every single actor has to bring their A game. This will have to be their best performance. And you can't act. You have to live as that character, as if you are that person, because the character you're playing is a real person. I mean, you don't have to go to the extent of sending used condoms and dead rats, but there's no seeing an actor's take on a character, because they're not playing the Joker, that is a fictional character, and then you can have different takes and styles, but still stay true to the character fundamentally. No, they are real people, with fortunately for us, with real documented footage, and there can only be one take on them, and that's them. It's an incredibly hard thing to do. People who don't understand acting just think it's wearing a costume and repeating lines that are written for you. If that's the case, then every cosplayer should be in a movie. It's great to see some old school acting, because this is what makes movies great. Not CGI, not practical stunts, not fancy camera angles. They're all great when they're done right, and it definitely boosts the value of the entertainment, but the acting is where it makes a movie great and memorable. There's something very powerful when you have two actors saying dialogue to each other in a space and the camera is just focused on them. You get movies like this, or The Godfather, or literally any of the great dramas. Every single actor, Robert Downey Jr., Emily Blunt, Matt Damon, and Cillian Murphy nail their parts. These are master actors who've perfected the craft that every body movement, voice inflection, intensity, or softness, and eyeline made every scene more powerful than what it actually is. With great actors can make a dull script appear to be great. And Nolan, you're very good at this. Dialogue for the most part of the movie was pretty weak, mostly in the scenes that have to do with personal relationships. The bigger discussions had a much more engaging dialogue. Nolan uses the strength of his actors to have his writing pumped with life. And don't get me wrong, that's an actor's job. A good comparison is Quentin Tarantino. Yeah, Nolan does the bigger spectacles than what Tarantino does, but Tarantino's movies have very exciting dialogue being delivered by amazing actors. Because how this movie is structured, and you have to pay attention to so many things, so you don't really listen to how the words are being used, and then when you do, you'll ask yourself, do people really talk like this? The weakest part of this film is the romantic relationship between Oppenheimer and Florence Pugh, or Discount Black Widow. The dialogue was at its weakest. The scene seemed kind of pointless because it didn't really go anywhere with it. There was an affair at one point, and when you think that there will be a blow up or a fallout following the incident, or even just some reactions, there was nothing. It was done, made those scenes pointless. You can make the argument that they needed her for later on in the trial, as she was a communist which he had a connection with, and okay, yeah, I agree with that. But do we really need a 10 to 15 minute sex and crying and boobies to display that? Like, you can have a scene of them making eye contact at a party, and then imply them doing the birds and bees and still get your point across, and there you go, I saved you 10 minutes, and now you can go pee. You don't have to cramp for another 10 minutes. Go ahead, Jimmy, you got this. Turn on the faucet, let it pour, free Willy! Yeah! All these scenes did was just piss off India. No, I mean India. No, I mean the real India, because there was a scene where they were reading from the Sanskrit scriptures while Oppenheimer was sucking on some delicious Hershey Kiss nips. Hey, this is new grounds for Nolan. First time where he's got into deep interpersonal relationships with his main character. It's gonna be a little janky. Hopefully he learns and improves on the next one. This is Cillian Murphy's second best performance. The first one is the addition to the role of Batman, obviously.
Who was with Falcone at the docks?
How he approached taking on the role of Robert Oppenheimer, he lost some weight to resemble the man even more, and not once did I see somebody else or even Cillian Murphy, and that is what a good performance does. Think about it. It's weird how we see these faces all the time, and yet we still don't recognize them. With Cillian's performance and Nolan's directing, they help me understand by showing me how Oppenheimer felt during his life. And they also captured the dread he felt by being part of something that built something so disastrous and that'll probably affect us into the coming future. A 3-hour runtime, however, is a bit much. Could this movie not have been shorter and still get its point across? Clearly the most engaging part of the movie is when they were working on the Manhattan Project. From recruitment, to theorizing, to building, personal dramas, all the way to finishing and letting it blow up was so entertaining, and it sucks because the most entertaining part of the movie was also the part that flew by, because we're left with 1 hour in the beginning that dragged to the final hour that also dragged. And a part of that is thanks to Nolan's moronic, unorthodox storytelling. Seriously, do you have to do it in every movie? He likes telling his stories in a non-linear fashion by slotting in events from the future to the past and the past to the future. So as you're watching a scene and trying to process that one, the next scene will be something from the future because it's related, but you're still processing the previous scene to the future scene, and now you cannot pay attention to any scene because you'll be missing something that'll come up after. And when that scene comes up, you're just lost, and now you're processing that one, and now your brain is cued with all this information, and it hinders the experience and makes the movie feel long. And all this could have been avoided if it was told chronologically linear, and having a shorter runtime forces you to get your point across more efficiently. Right up until the point where the bomb detonated, and that was at the 2-hour mark, it felt like a complete movie right there with a great finale, and they could have ended it. But they decided to continue it on for another hour. In better times, that's where the movie would have ended, and that last hour would have been an extended cut or a director's cut, so for people who want to see more of the performances and drama, it'll be for us. Because anyone that's a fan of The Lord of the Rings, we all know the extended versions are the real versions. But you see how the theatrical cut of The Lord of the Rings was an hour shorter, and it still felt like a complete movie. Come on, Nolan! An extremely hard thing to do is to express or show is trying to direct a certain feeling. During the Manhattan Project, Nolan did an amazing job showing the pressure, the anxiety, and desperation-filled emotion to help us, the audience, feel that too. I myself can't explain in words how hard that is to do because everything has to go right. The right score playing, clever editing, sound design, obviously the performances, lighting tricks, dialogue, and how you write the scene now. And my god, Hoyt van Hoytema, I'm gonna say it right now, he's one of the best cinematographers today. Anyone could pick up a camera and call themselves a cinematographer. I just watched the movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix, and he also filmed that, and that level of understanding that he has is unfathomable. He can turn any movie into a spectacle. That's how good he is. His understanding of composition, angles, movement, and pushing and pulling can turn an average movie into a masterpiece. Just look at the Marvel movies. And I'm not even talking about Phase Ass. All the way back to Phase 1. They were filmed fine, and obviously later on they all look the exact same because they all use cheap average filmmakers. But if they had a cinematographer at that level, I wonder how those movies will look like. Even the creative decision to have the scenes on Strauss be black and white, in my opinion, was smart. I don't fully understand precisely why Nolan chose that, but my interpretation was to show that everything color was to show through Oppenheimer's perspective, and the scenes in black and white was to show through Strauss's perspective, that his mentality and motivations were through hatred, so the scenes were dark, and maybe he saw the world as black and white. The only thing that sucks is, will this movie even be eligible for a nomination at the next Oscars? I mean, who cares about the Oscars now? They lost all integrity in meeting and it's just all political now and it's less about the art. But I'm saying with all the bullshit rules of forcing diversity just to be eligible now. God forbid they make a movie about a white man surrounded by other white people because sourcefully it's historically and geographically accurate. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. Don't get me wrong though, with all the criticisms I have with this movie, I was entertained through and through. This movie touched certain issues and even in the certain areas that were risky, and that's what makes this movie even greater, when writers and directors can take stories outside the boundaries. Explore more about the character in detail. Bohemian Rhapsody, a movie about Freddie Mercury and the rock band Queen. It was a great movie. Rami Malek won Best Actor, but the original plan was the movie to be rated R with Sacha Baron Cohen as Freddy. And they wanted to go deep, but the band members said no. They wanted to tell a lighter version. Imagine what we could have gotten if the creators had the freedom to explore the more complicated, crazy life of Freddy. I think we could have gotten a much better film, and I felt like we got that with Oppenheimer. The risks were taken, though I do believe it could have been utilized more. Filmmaking is a difficult process, and this movie did solidify Nolan as a top director again, after the mess of Tenet. I am now looking forward to Nolan's next film and see what else he can do, and if he's improved on his mistakes, and give us a much more structurally stable film. Because his films be looking like Lizzo's knee stability about to collapse during the flute performance. Okay, now I'm done with the Lizzo jokes. Who knows, maybe a second viewing experience can make this film more complete and easier to follow, and not seem so dragged. But do I want to see a 3-hour Oppenheimer movie, or rewatch Endgame, or Return of the King? I definitely will rewatch this at some point, and hopefully my viewing experience is a more positive one, but I can tell you near the end of this movie, and even throughout, it did make me question ideas or morality of certain decisions, that I myself, or even us human beings in general. It was a breath of fresh air to have an intellectually challenging movie like this. And in the end, my anxiety did increase because we all know something big is going to come, whether it's a global economic catastrophe or a bomb about to be dropped. Hug your loved ones. Alright, if you liked it, please leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more. Until my next one, ta-ta for now.